On this episode of the GameCritics.com podcast, we continue debunking the myths of game criticism. How well do you need to know your critics? How did 8 out of 10 become the average score? Can a game be fun without being good? And will Twitter put us all out of business? Felipe, fire up the theme song. The GameCritics.com podcast starts right now. Hello, everybody. Episode 25 of the GameCritics.com podcast. It's also part 2 of our epic 2-part Myths of Game Criticism extravaganza. I'm Tim Spaeth. Thankfully, we all survived last show's nail-biting cliffhanger. Everybody's back and bloated from Halloween candy. At least I am. Let's say hi to the panel, starting with Chi Kong Liu.
Hey, Tim. Hey, everybody.
And Brad Gallaway.
Hey guys, good to be back.
And our horror geek and yours, Mike Bracken.
Good evening.
So guys, we're going to pick up where we left off. If you remember from a week ago, we did 4 myths last week. We've got 4 more to go. Although, because you, the audience, were so generous as to come back for another round, we have added a 9th myth at no charge to you. I think that's very generous of us, don't you think?
It's only if you call in the next 10 minutes.
Supplies are limited. Act now.
Now, for the folks who didn't hear part 1, and by the way, if you didn't hear part 1, for God's sakes, what's wrong with you? I mean, really. It was kind of epic, don't you think?
It was
moderately epic.
It was
pretty involved.
Now, in part 1, we talked about whether or not critics should finish games. Is there a difference between a review and a critique? We talked about if game writers should be considered journalists, and if every review should be considered a buyer's guide. So all those myths plus this week's are in the show notes if you want to follow along. But, gentlemen, I think we should jump right to myth number 5. What do you think?
I am ready to go.
Yep, let's do it.
Let's rock and roll. It's time for myth number 5. The explosion of blogs, podcasts, and Twitter has rendered formal game reviews obsolete. If you guys don't mind, I will say something first, and I'm somewhat biased. I think podcasts can sit along formal game reviews or critiques as valuable archived analyses of games. But I am somewhat biased as the producer of a podcast. The benefit of a podcast, I think, is the back and forth, the challenging of people's opinions. And long-form podcasts, such as this one and many others, I think can go beyond just talking about games. We can discuss culture and current events, the lives of the panelists on the show. I think it can paint a real picture of what the industry and the world was like at the time, and can help put the thoughts about a game into context, and, you know, in an ideal universe, serve as almost an historical document, much like a written review. And I'm not trying to sound too self-important. Certainly I'm not saying that we achieve that on every one of our shows, but I think the potential is there in the medium. In a more practical sense, I think podcasts can be archived. They're searchable. You can listen to every single one of our shows through iTunes, just like you can search a review on a website. There's a permanence to podcasts that I think will complement a written review. But as for blogs and Twitter, by definition, these are more off the cuff. They're more informal. They're unedited, usually unspell-checked. I don't think they're the best venue for thoughtful, insightful analysis. I consider blogs and Twitter more disposable media. Blogs are not easily searched. When was the last time you went out and searched somebody's old blog entries? Tweets are even less searchable. And the reality is, what it comes down to, I think, is any idiot can sign up for Twitter or start a blog. There's no cost to entry. And so really the problem is there's just a staggering amount of noise. So if we're talking about creating an archived history of game critiques that will tell the history of the medium, that's not going to happen on a blog or Twitter. That's not to say we can't use blogs and Twitter to express ideas or to spread the word or use it as a marketing tool, but I don't think they're going to put us out of business.
I have a different opinion there, Tim. If I can jump in. I agree with you on Twitter completely, if for no other reason than because it's an entirely disposable medium, and 140 characters just doesn't lend itself to discussing anything with depth. So unless you want to do like 140 characters back and forth, and again, it's disposable, so there's no archive of it. I'm a little more of a, I guess, podcasts. I do all these podcasts. I'm on all these different shows and everything, and I like doing them. But I like my reviews in a blog more than I like them in a podcast. Not because I have something against any of the reasons you pointed out, podcasts being really useful, because I think those are all perfectly valid points. My problem with podcasts is like, I have to listen to them, so I don't feel like I'm in control of them, because they're hard to, when people get off on a tangent or something like that, it's hard to skip ahead and get back to where things get back on the track. Whereas when I'm reading something, I can skip ahead or read it in whatever order I want. It's a much more interactive experience for me. So, I like podcasts, but every podcast I see tends to run, with the exception of ours, like 2 hours, and I just don't have 2 hours to devote to listening to them and trying to maneuver through them. I would much rather deal with the printed word. But to answer the broader question there, I don't think any of those things have rendered formal game reviews obsolete at all. There's just more noise out there.
But at the same time, you have to kind of agree that it's devalued criticism in a large sense, right?
Right, but I think we would have had this happen even if we didn't have blogs and podcasts, because even before blogs became popular, look at how many fucking gaming GeoCities sites there were that were just crappy noise that were devaluing game criticism. And I mean, blogs to me, I know there's a distinction between website and blog, but to a lot of people, there isn't so much. I mean, you go to one to read something, you go to a blog to read something else. So, I mean, if we didn't have blogs, we just have a bunch more game websites that guys were hosting on, free hosting sites or whatever. So I don't know that blogs have hurt it so much. I think game reviews were going to be screwed no matter what happened.
I mean, I think the difference for me there, though, is there's definitely a difference with blogs, because they, as someone who makes websites for a living also, I remember the GeoCity days, and those weren't blogs, those were just a lot of crappy websites that, could barely be even legible. And blogs really elevated the everyman into like, a publisher. I mean, that's why blogs are so huge today, because they're just so accessible, and they're so, at the same time, legible in a lot of ways as well. So to me, it really is sort of has been more the dagger than anything else, out of every, compared to like the old days. Would there have been something else? I don't know. It's hard to say, but I think, blogs are definitely taking away from formal criticism or more formal game reviews. I'm not sure if it's ever going to kill it altogether, but I mean, just always listening to how you're complaining about the lack of work for critics out there.
Yeah, I would totally agree with that. And when blogs started out, I thought the level of discourse on a lot of blogs was really good. Now, I don't know that it's a whole lot better on a lot of these blogs than the old GeoCities sites were. I guess that it's nice that they don't have as many crappy graphics on them as those old sites did. But, I don't disagree with that. But I guess I don't make the distinction. I think you can do formal criticism on a blog, I guess. So my problems with blogs and the internet in general is now that the guys who have the money will turn around and just say, we're not going to pay you because we can get some schmuck who isn't as good at what you do as you are, but he'll do it for free. So, and the audience won't know. I don't know. I just see that was going to happen anyway, like because sites were so easy to build and things like that. I guess I could be totally wrong here, though. I don't know.
Well, the way I see it, you guys, I think there's kind of two ways to tackle the question, and I'm just going to just get right down to it. I mean, if you talk about devaluing, I mean, I think that what you guys have said so far is really correct. I think that because anybody who has a blog, give them 6 months and all of a sudden they think they're like a professional reviewer. I mean, I've talked to people who talk like they're a seasoned professional. They've got like 4 reviews up on their site and they've had a blog for like a month or something. I mean, not to discourage people from getting out there and doing it themselves, but I mean, there's a difference between doing it hardcore, making media contacts, going to E3, and like sitting at home and plunking off a 600-word review after you just got back from Blockbuster. So I do think that there's a lot more talent who is trying to get out there, and that is kind of like financially devaluing the opportunities that are out there for people who put a lot more time and effort to it, like us. And in terms of the other sort of devaluing, like intellectual devaluing, I don't know anybody who says, oh, so-and-so game is coming out. I got to run home. I got to check so-and-so's blog to see what they think. I mean, I don't know anybody that does that. I mean, everybody goes to, Metacritic, or they go to IGN, or they go to Game Critics, or they go to, some formal review venue to check out what a game is all about. I mean, there are certain blogs that I will check once in a while, but only because I have a real intimate familiarity with the writer. I know them really well. I know their taste really well, or they've stuck out to me for some reason and they're notable. But I don't know anybody who is going to take just a Tom, Dick, or Harry blog over some formally published review. So I don't think that in that sense they're having any effect on the role of reviews, although I do think it's getting a lot harder for people to get paid for publishing those kind of reviews.
I mean, it's interesting you say that, Brad, also, because you're right. In a lot of ways, people are still going to the experts and to the main sources. But then when you go to like Amazon.com and you see like 100 reviews of like the latest product or whatever, it's just hard to not feel like that everything's just been sort of leveled off a bit. Although at the end of the day, I hear what you're saying. People are still going to those sources, but just overall, there just seems like there's a less value to those main sources.
I think
because I don't have that experience at all. I don't know anybody who like checks the Amazon stuff. I mean, if they're like actually ordering, they'll click down. I mean, that's kind of what I do. But I never go to like, I want to see what all these people are saying on Amazon, because they're yahoos. Most of the time they're either shills or they're yahoos, and that doesn't really have any value. And I don't know anybody that really puts any kind of stock in that stuff. What were you gonna say, Mike?
Yeah, I was just going to say that's it exactly. That you can't. You'll always want to go to the formal sites, because even though you may not agree with the guys at the formal sites, or you may question the ethics of some of them, you still know that they have an editorial staff that's controlling the content. Whereas when you go to Amazon or Best Buy's, their customer reviews or all that, there is no editorial process. You can look at a TV on Best Buy, and one guy will give it a 5, and another guy will give it a 1, and how do you know anything from any of that? So I totally don't think those sort of Amazon reviews or anything like that are ever going to replace formal criticism of any of the mediums we talk about.
All right, and speaking of Amazon reviews, let's give a shout out to that guy who plagiarized Brad's review of Demon Souls on Amazon.com.
Dude, I have had so many reviews plagiarized on Amazon.com that it's like I was like on first name basis with their people who deal with that film stuff. So
Really?
yeah, I've had a lot of stuff go up there that other people have posted that was mine.
Someone explain that phenomenon to me. What possible point would there be? I mean, I could understand plagiarizing it if what you were plagiarizing was going to be seen, like published in like an official place, but like an Amazon review, why would you even take the time to just what do you get out of it?
I blame it on when Amazon started giving those like top 1,000 reviewers tags to people and stuff, and like there are a couple people who have reviewed at Amazon, like there's a lady who reviews books, I think her name's Harriet Klausner or something like that, and she's only like reviewed at Amazon as far as I know, but she wrote so many reviews there that she started to get like attention like as a real book critic. So I think other people saw that, and you get a little tag by your name. And never underestimate the power of recognition on the internet for some reason. People just want that stuff.
It's amazing what that little tag will do. I know.
Yeah. I mean, I've seen people at places like that go nuts over they didn't get a little star by their name and some other guy did, and that guy sucks. And it's like, well, you're not making any money either way, so what do you care? But
but that guy does suck, though. He shouldn't get that star.
He does. I agree. Take it back.
Well, we had some interesting comments from the listeners, and just a couple things I'll read here. One from Sinan, who left a post on your blog, Brad. He writes, and I quote, "Twitter blogs and podcasts are only broadening the net and bringing more people into games and games journalism. It's up to print magazines and websites to use these new avenues of talking about games effectively. There's no reason why a review and a blog/podcast/tweet have to be exclusive." And we had another comment from Sid Schumann, who I think left this on your blog as well, Brad. He answers the question, no, quote, "No, not at all, though it has certainly taken some wind out of the sails. A well-written, informative, engaging game review is still going to be in demand online and in print. I think it's time to reevaluate some of the protocols, formats, and goals of reviews, however. I do think it's time for an evolution."
Both comments. Yeah, both comments are well said.
Yep.
Absolutely.
I got smart people in my blog, man. I rock.
Fantastic. So our thanks to them, and I think we can put myth number 5 to bed. Let's move on then to myth number 6. Individual game critics and review sites are under constant, unrelenting pressure from publishers to change scores. Now, before we get into this, the original way I phrased this when I posted it on the website was constant, unrelenting pressure from aggregate sites to change scores. And then I modified that to publishers because I think that makes a bit more sense, although people did answer both variations.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to address the publisher side. I don't really think that there is any pressure from aggregates anywhere, so we're going to let that go for now. And I'll just talk about publisher pressure. And I think this is a really interesting question because I think that there's a big perception that publishers lean really heavily on reviewers. And because we don't get any funding through advertisement at Game Critics, I think we probably dodge a lot of that if there is any going on in that indirect kind of we're not going to advertise at your site sort of way. So we're a little bit immune to that. Although I will say that occasionally, there are maybe overzealous PR people who will say, hey, I saw your review and I didn't like XYZ. Would you think about changing it? I mean, but that's a pretty rare thing. I can only think of maybe like 2 or 3 times in the last 10 years that that's happened, and it's never been anything heavy-handed. I mean, it's more of like them begging than anything else. But I think there's a different kind of pressure on review sites that people don't really think about if you are a reader, but when you are a reviewer, it's always on your mind, and that is that if you start to review games negatively, if they deserve it, the pressure that you're under is that the publisher is going to just cut you off, and you will no longer have games to review. So it's not anything upfront, it's not anything very overt, but if you start giving low numbers to a publisher and they're not happy with what you're doing, you will all of a sudden find that your emails are not responded to. You will find that you're not getting any of the insider emails that go out before a game gets released. You will not have your name on the list to receive review copies. And so you will just kind of quietly be shunted to the side, and you will be relegated to, the rest of the internet who is renting stuff at Blockbuster and not getting any early review copies. So I do want to say that has never stopped us at Game Critics, at least to my knowledge, of giving a game a better score for fear of being cut off later. But it is something that we always have in the back of our heads. And for me, anyway, it's always like, okay, well, that game sucked. I got to review that really low, so I guess I'm not going to get XYZ that I was looking forward to next month. And I just kind of resign myself to that. And if the game arrives, awesome. I love it. And in fact, if that does happen, if the publishers see a bad score and they give me a game anyway, like they instantly earn like mass karma for me, because that shows me that they're really professional and that they're really, they're good about what they're doing and they know what we're doing and respect it. And if publishers decide to cut us off, well, that's cool. I mean, I can rent a game just as much as anybody else can, and the review will get to the site a week later, but it'll still get there. So they're not really stopping us from giving low numbers to their games. But in my perspective, that's really the only quote unquote pressure that I've experienced at the site. I mean, what about you guys?
Well, there was one variation on that we've recently experienced also, is that somehow our lower scores are costing game developers their Metacritic bonus.
Guild approach, yes.
Yeah. So I guess I should explain this a little bit, right? Games apparently certain game developers in their contracts with their publishers are awarded bonuses based on their Metacritic or game rankings average score on their game. So, if our site or any other site, gives a low score and it brings that average down, we in effect are taking money out of the pockets of game developers, allegedly, as it's been explained to us. And that's just to me a baffling new phenomenon as far as why game developers would agree to such a contract. I guess they're publishers like holding them over a table that way, and it's unfortunate, but there's just something. It's going to cost us our integrity if we start bowing down to that kind of a pressure.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I really reject that whole notion. I mean, like you said, I realize that it's hard out there for developers. So if there are developers listening, and I know that there are, we don't mean to disparage you guys in any way. We have nothing but respect for developers. And as small business owners and freelancers, we know what it's like to have to get out there and hustle. Sometimes you have to agree to a contract that you're maybe not too thrilled about because you really need to put food on the table. I mean, we get that. So it's not like we're insensitive to it. But at the same time, we don't know who's got a contract based on a Metacritic score. And even if we did, we can't really own any of that, because for us to give honest criticism, we have to tell people exactly what we think. We can't have in the back of our heads, Bob over at Developer B is going to have to get a one-bedroom apartment instead of his three-bedroom house because we gave him a 4 instead of a 6, and his Metacritic score is going to be screwed. I mean, we can't take on responsibility for people we don't even know getting paid. I mean, it has nothing to do with us, really. And I mean, I feel bad for developers, but honestly, I realize you have limited power in doing this, but don't agree to that stuff. I mean, it seems like a really bad situation for everybody.
And everybody is screwed with us anyway, because we actually consider 5 average, which makes us killing everybody regardless, since the typical game score now is anything below 8 is not worth playing.
Yeah.
And all I would have to add to this topic is that this is not something that only happens in games, in game journalism or whatever we're calling it. This also happens in film. I know a lot of stories where, if you piss off a certain studio, you won't get invited to screenings, or they won't do screenings in your area as punishment, or things like this. So this isn't something that just applies to gaming. It's the uneasy relationship between critics and the people who put this stuff out in the first place. So.
Yeah, it's a real juggling act, because you work really hard to get noticed, you work really hard to get your name out there and to be respected as a critic, and then as soon as you start giving low scores to games that deserve it, the publishers get pissed, and then all of a sudden you find yourself out in the cold, and it's tough. I mean, it's a tough situation to be in, but I think we've kind of gotten used to it over the last 10 years. I mean, we've pissed off a number of people, and we're still here. And like I said, our reviews may get to publish 2 weeks later than everybody else because we didn't get a review copy, but it's not going to stop us from doing what we want to do. And I did want to throw in just really quickly about the review score. I'm really glad you brought that up, Mike, because for those that don't know, we do actually try to use the entire 1 through 10 scale. And I can actually recall a couple of conversations I've had with PR people who just did not understand that. I mean, they kind of got what we were doing, that we were really trying to, acknowledge the fact that 1, 2, 3, 4 exist, and so that we can probably use those in some way.
They're not abstract concepts.
Yeah, I mean, it's not the Loch Ness monster. I can point to where those numbers are, but it's their counter argument is always I get what you're saying, and some of them even say we respect that, but at the same time it's but the entire rest of the internet doesn't, and we kind of would like you to play ball, and we don't. But at the same time, I kind of feel bad for the PR people, but I kind of don't, because how do you fight this giant tide of people who only score from 7 to 10? I mean, it's kind of their reality right now, and they're stuck with it, and so they're making the best out of screwed up situation. But if we don't start fighting that, I mean, who's going to? I don't want to get swept up in that. And I mean, I think people like us and other select sites have to kind of take a stand. So if that, gets us off of review lists, or if it screws up somebody's Metacritic bonus, sorry, but we got to review the way we got to review.
Right, and let's go back and talk a little bit about the whole 7 to 10, which is technically almost its own myth, actually, the whole 7 to 10 score, which I think at this point, it's, for gamers, it's code. When a game gets like a 6 or a 7, that's in essence gamer code for this game is crap, even though it's not like a 2 or a 3 or a 4,
But it's the equivalent now of being
exactly.
a 2 or 3 or a 4.
And let's talk about why that came to be, and it's because of the publisher pressure, really. I like to think I think you can trace it back to to magazines like Game Fan, which didn't want to give a low score for anything. Was it called Game Fan? I think you remember Game Fan, right?
Yeah, Game Fan, and now it's Play. I mean, they give the fucking sloppiest blowjob reviews out there. Their reviews are a joke. I have no respect for that magazine whatsoever. Okay, their art direction's good. Other than that, it's I wouldn't wrap fish in it.
Right. Anyway, so the point being was just that the publisher pressure has basically forced the publications out there to sort of elevate their scores, so at least it looks good on paper. But gamers know that a 6 or a 7 means that it's really crap. So that's really what that has all come down to. The one last point I wanted to make about that also was somehow. This was mentioned on our forums by one of our posters also, is that how all these aggregate scores have basically, not aggregate scores, but how these higher scores rather have made is devaluing game reviews in general. People don't trust them anymore because they're all so high. Every AAA title gets all 9s and 10s at this point. There's just no objectivity anymore whatsoever. And eventually, this game reviews are just going to become worthless, really, if this trend continues, and the PR people are just going to move on to whatever other platforms they can use to promote their games, and people writing these reviews, they need to understand that eventually, that ship is gonna sail away. You gotta stop this trend, basically.
That's just one more argument for eliminating the scoring system entirely and just writing reviews.
All right. Well, our 7th myth ties neatly into our 6th myth. So let's move on to that before we take our break. This is myth number 7. Game scores are often purposefully tweaked to either generate controversy or avoid it.
All right. As the owner of GameCritics.com, I guess it's appropriate to let me start the conversation on this one, and I'll address it A, as an owner of the site, and B, as a critic, right? So as the owner of the site, let me just first say that I've never explicitly had any conversation with any one of our critics and asked them to lower a rating to generate so that it's more controversial, so that it generates more traffic. I've never had that conversation. I don't believe it's something that you can do without costing you the integrity of the site, and thereby losing the trust of your readers. So even if you do it on once or twice, eventually if you keep going to that well, it's going to hurt you. So and we don't do. I don't personally think it's something that should be done, and I don't think we do that. Of course, inevitably people think we do that because a lot of our ratings are lower than others, as for the reasons that we are now clear now, thanks to the whole 7 to 10 rating system. As a critic, I don't see why giving a lower score in particular to make a point is necessarily a bad thing. And again, this is if you view reviews as not something that's sort of this universal grading system where you're valuing the game as a whole compared to other things. It's like I said, a review is an opinion. You're trying to communicate something. And as I said before, when I gave Grand Theft Auto 3 a 7.5, yeah, I was definitely trying to make a point. I knew the 7.5 was going to get an attention, but not because I was just trying to be some sort of a attention whore. I had a lot of things I wanted to express about that game that I thought weren't being expressed at that time, and I knew the 7.5 was going to make that point. So
your writing in that review supported that score as well.
Exactly.
So
Yeah.
It wasn't like you just slapped a low number on it.
Right, for the sole purpose of generating controversy, right? Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well, as proud owner of many of the quote unquote absolute lowest scores on the internet myself, I mean, I know all about this. It's been put on me several times that I give the scores that I do just for hits, and I will definitely say that in the entire 10 years of being at Game Critics, no one has ever said, hey, we should give a lower number to this to get some hits. It's not what we do. It really isn't. I mean, I think, like she said, we give lower numbers as a consequence of actually trying to use the entire 1 through 10 scale. So, of course, we're going to be giving out lower numbers. But, also, I think this kind of ties back to not being beholden to publishers for ad revenue. I mean, we are not collecting paychecks at the end of the month from EA or from, Capcom or from anybody. So we are free to say whatever we want to say. And the culture at the site is very much supportive of the writers. I mean, it's not necessarily anything goes, but I think that we do have quite a lot of leeway to speak in our own voices and to not really be worried about what some PR conscious editor is going to do to our reviews. And so, we are an experienced bunch. We've been around the block. I mean, we know what we're talking about. And when something comes through that people are giving 9s and 10s and we don't think it's that good, I mean, we don't really have a reason to not call bullshit on it. There's been tons of times when, something new and hot comes out, everybody's like really high on it. You have that 2-week honeymoon period where nobody can say anything bad about it. And there's just no upside to us sugarcoating anything. So we're just going to say what we think, and it's not for the sake of generating hits, but I mean, in my particular case, I may be really sick of hearing something that has obvious flaws just getting, blowjobs all across the internet, and it's like, am I the only person that sees these flaws? Am I the only person who recognizes that game X is not perfect? Well, I must be. And if I am, well, okay, well, I'm going to tell people about it. There's got to be one other person on the internet who agrees with me, and inevitably there is. So, we're just not afraid to go. We're not afraid to go there.
Right. So sometimes it feels like we're on that episode of Twilight Zone where like everyone's has the pig face and we're the normal people.
No, totally.
This is the of all the game reviewing criticism myths, there are two that drive me absolutely batshit insane, and this is one of them. And the other one, which drives me only just a little bit more insane, is that, because it's just as stupid, is that reviewers should all be completely unbiased. That one drives me incredibly nuts because it's so stupid I can't believe people say it. This one is equally as stupid, and I'm amazed every time someone says it as well, because it implies that we all sit around like we're all so desperate for traffic that we're like, how can I get more people to the site and piss them off? And like, if you stop and think about it, if I write a review of a popular game and a game that gets 10s everywhere and I give it a 2, then I get one review where I get a bunch of hits with a bunch of pissed off people leaving comments who are all telling me how they're never coming back. So what would I benefit from doing this?
Right.
If you're coming
Absolutely.
one time and you're not coming back, we're all looking to build return traffic and things of this nature. We want people who are going to be part of the community, who are going to keep coming back because they like the way we review games or they like the stuff we talk about on the site. Doing this it would be counterproductive to growing a site, because you'd get one spike of traffic and then you'd never get that kind of traffic again because people just stop coming. So it's absolutely stupid, and this is what bugs me about gamers in general, is that anytime you don't see the world in the Nazi-like view of the average gamer, then you're somehow have some nefarious purpose that you're acting out to get attention. It's never that you just don't see the game in the same way they do. They just can't accept that, and that bugs me to no end.
Oh, totally. And just for everybody's information who's listening, we really don't like getting like nasty ass comments left on our reviews telling us that, we're doing so and so's mother, or we don't know anything about games, or that we're lazy slack asses looking for hits, or that we're this, that, and the other thing. We're human beings, It doesn't really feel that great to get all these like awful comments. So we certainly don't score something low to get that kind of traffic, because to tell you the truth, I'd be completely fine never getting that kind of email or comment again, because it doesn't really like put a spark in my day to get to my mailbox and have people calling me all kinds of profanity. I mean, it sucks that, just like Mike said, I mean, you have a different viewpoint on things and people just go ape shit. I mean, like, like my recent Borderlands review, that game was getting, I thought that game was getting like absurdly inflated scores. I mean, the honeymoon period on that game was like ridiculous. And, I've had a few people agree with me once they've gotten into the game, but I gave it a pretty low score. And man, the kinds of comments I was getting from that just completely sucked the wind out of my sails. And it was like, why the fuck am I even bothering to review games anymore? Because people don't appreciate it. I mean, people can be so immature and just, just so lame and hurtful sometimes that it sucks. So I can say, speaking for myself, and I'm sure I speak for you guys too, we certainly don't do it for the negative attention.
One of our commenters, Jack Slack, he calls it Amazon.com syndrome. And I'll quote him here. He says, fans like to have their fandoms appreciated and told they're awesome for liking the things they're fans of. As such, they negatively rate or comment on reviews that give bad reviews while praising those that praise their fandom object. There's no flip side effect, because if it's outside your fandom, you don't search out those reviews.
Yeah, I think that's pretty much it in a nutshell.
Yep.
Good comment, Jack.
Yes, thank you, Jack. So I think we're set there. Time is winding down. Let's take a quick break, though. We'll hit the last two myths when we come back. So enjoy some obscure video game music while we rest up. 2 and 2. Be right back at you. We are back. I hope everyone enjoyed that little bit of random video game music. We're going to dive right back into myth number 8. And here it is. A reader should not need to be familiar with the author of a review in order to derive value from it. Well, as the only person here who is exclusively a reader and not a writer of reviews, I will say this briefly. Great writing is great writing regardless of the author. And that's not just true of game reviews. That would be true of fiction, nonfiction, screenplays, poetry, whatever it happens to be. I can read a story. I will use an example a story I just read, The Old Man and the Sea, Ernest Hemingway. I can recognize that as a magnificent, deep, thoughtful piece of writing, even if I don't know much about the author. Since I do know something about Hemingway, that at that point in his life he was in terrible health, he had chronic paranoia, self-loathing, he was suicidal, he hadn't had a critical success in many years, it makes what happens to the character in that story that much more poignant. It's essentially a story about himself. Again, you don't have to know that, but it enhances the experience. Bring it back to game reviews. If I'm reading an RPG review by Mike Bracken, who I think we would all agree is the Hemingway of RPG reviews.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'd go that far.
Age-wise, anyway.
Danielle Steele, maybe, but...
It's going to be a thought-provoking, insightful review, whether I know Mike or not. But since I know Mike's work, since I know we're about the same age, although Mike is many years older, we're kind of close. I know we cut our teeth on the same RPGs. I know that Mike is kind of a cranky guy. It takes a lot to impress him. If he sings the praises of an RPG, because I know all that about him, I'm going to put a lot more stock into his recommendation than I would in, say, a 22-year-old guy who started on Final Fantasy VII. Again, good writing is good writing, and I'm not saying that 22-year-old kid can't write a great review or a great critique, but because I have a personal relationship with Mike, it certainly can't hurt and really just serves to enhance the meaning of the work. I am no longer talking.
Everything you said, Tim, totally agree with. I mean, I definitely think you're right that a good review is a good review is a good review, no matter what. But I do think that in the sense that we do put so much stock in scores, having that extra contextual information can really give a lot of meaning and a lot of backbone to why a certain number is a certain number. People that know me know that I hate games where you grind for no particular purpose. They know that I don't like games that waste my time. They know that I like things that are very creative and fresh. I love really good dialogue. I mean, I play all kinds of games. I mean, I play almost every single genre. So it's not like I'm just specializing in one genre or another, which some readers are so fond of, like rubbing in my face when they don't like my review of something.
They automatically assume that you don't like X kind of game, right?
I give a shooter a bad score, and then all of a sudden I'm a guy who never plays shooters and hates shooters. Yeah. Or I don't like RPGs one day, or I don't like platformers the next day, or whatever. But I mean, if you get to know me after all my reviews and my blog and stuff, you'll get to know what kind of games I like, and then that will inform you, the reader, as to how much stock you should actually put into my opinion. I mean, my opinion is my opinion regardless of what you think of it. But if you know that you like the same kind of games that I do, then I'm guessing that my reviews are probably going to be more meaningful and more worthwhile to you if we're on the same level. I mean, if we are opposite style gamers, like I have a friend who plays like everything I like, he hates. And everything that he loves, I think, is completely boring. I mean, we're great friends. We get along just fine. But in terms of game taste, when he recommends something to me, I know to stay away from it, and vice versa. Like, whenever I'm raving about something, he's like, oh, check that off my list. So that is a really good way of, you know who's talking to you. You know who you're listening to. I mean, you there's definite value there. It's not necessary, but it helps a lot, I think.
And I think the nice thing about you, Brad, is that if I look at my game shelf and I'm staring at, I don't know, maybe 100 games right now, I know that you've probably reviewed 98 of them. So
at least.
I mean, I could easily build a database and, I could calculate a percentage of games I like versus games you like because, you've just been so prolific in your writing just in terms of quantity. I would say 80% chance that if you like a game, I like a game. Now, where I'm going with this, and I'll turn to you, Chi. Chi, you and I think, have incredibly divergent game tastes. What you like and what I like are, you're enjoying the Pokemon and the Dynasty Warriors and the boxing and the Ultimate Fighting. Not
Tim,
my
I'm shocked, man. I'm shocked. What are you trying to say? I'm hurt. You don't like the things that I like?
But here's the thing. When I see you come out and write a review of, say, Grand Theft Auto, which is a game that I like very much, but is not something I would necessarily see you playing, and maybe that's not entirely accurate, but to me that review is almost more meaningful because you're coming from a completely different perspective. Because I know that about you. So if I see you come out and review Fallout 3 or God willing 2 Human, I'm going to go in and I'm going to read that right away because, God, well, here's a guy who doesn't care for this genre necessarily. What does he have to say about it? And I know you're a good writer, so I know that there's going to be something that I can pick up on there.
And that's one of the core missions of our site, that there's value to diverse opinions, and no one's right or wrong. To me, it's particularly fascinating to hear what other people have to say. So exactly, that's great,
For me, the most interesting thing about this discussion is it depends on what you want from the piece of writing that you're reading. If you're looking at something as using it as a should I buy this game or not. I think it helps to know the author a little bit. But if you're just looking for thoughtful writing about games, then I think you can derive that from pretty much anybody's review, whether you know anything about them in the first place or not. And again, part of the whole process is every reviewer you end up knowing and trusting, at one point you didn't know them, so clearly you can derive value from them before you know what they're all about. So yeah, I don't think you have to know the person, but it helps if you're looking for a product buying recommendation.
Well said.
We all now know that Mike is a big fan of Danielle Steele novels, right?
Yes, I love her. She's like Lee Alexander, just one of my favorite chicks.
And joining us now on the podcast, Lee Alexander. Lee, sorry.
We got to make that a reality one day.
Oh, Jesus, yeah. Can't wait.
Working on it.
Can't wait.
We had some interesting comments here, and I just want to read a couple of them before we move on to the last myth. This comes from Davey Pitch, and I will say, quote, "When I read a review, I tend not to look at the name of the person reviewing it. Merely look at the quality of the writing and the review itself to see if it's worth taking the opinion seriously. While it would be great to be a famous reviewer whom everyone respects, with so many reviewers around this day, it's near impossible to stand out on name alone anymore. The quality of the writing and the review should always be the things you look to first." Fair enough.
Yep.
Fair enough.
Yeah, it's a little bit of a cynical take, though, I think. I mean, the writing's good. If the writing is really good, then you're going to look at who wrote it, and if that person continually writes, those kind of reviews, you're going to get that following. So, I mean, it's still possible to do it. I agree, though. There are a lot of voices out there now competing for attention.
Definitely.
That's where I've found Twitter to come in handy, because I've got 40 or 50 people who I trust, who I respect as writers, and then those folks have people they trust, and it's a nice way to be exposed to things you wouldn't have found on your own. One other comment, this comes from Crash Translation. These are great names. These folks have these fantastic internet aliases. Crash Translation. I don't know what it means, but it just sounds great. He says he finds, quote, "reviews without bylines frustrating, especially when the reviewer in question makes a lot of personal statements regarding how they felt about a game or which aspects they had trouble with. Such relative statements are next to useless without context. If I can see who wrote that review and what they have said previously, I can work out what they mean when they describe a game as not challenging. Without attribution, that statement means nothing, as I have no way of comparing the reviewer's definition of challenging to my own."
Yeah, this is a person that believes reviews are opinions, so yeah, I love this guy.
Good stuff. So, I think we have come to the end of our 8 core myths. Are we ready for the bonus?
Ready.
Bring it on.
All right. Bonus myth number 9. We have not previewed this at all. No one has any idea what this myth is. It's not in the show notes. Everybody hold on to something, for God's sakes. Myth number 9. And the sound effect for this myth is going to blow you away. Does a game need to be fun in order to be considered good?
Yeah, this to me is another one of the big gaming myths out there, and to me it stems back and also begins with my hatred of GamePro, where they originated the
fun factor.
The fun, exactly.
Factor.
Oh, I forgot all about that. Oh my God, yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
Do they still use that?
I don't know. I stopped reading them since I was a teenager, I think. But yeah, ever since they coined the term fun factor, people have never forgotten that, unfortunately. And, I hate to blame GamePro for that, but they coined it, so I'm going to blame them for it. But to me, the problem with judging games based on fun is that fun is a completely abstract and subjective term. It's not that it's not something that we shouldn't be talking about, but as a critic, we're trying to find intellectual ways to justify our opinions, to justify the value of what we think these games are. And fun is just sort of like it's just lazy. It's what it is. It's just when you say something is fun, well, that's it. You're done. It's fun. Great. Okay. But but what is fun exactly? It's so much more than what that three-letter word is. It's really, what's engaging about this experience? What's engaging about this game? And in order to get to that, you need to stop using the term fun and actually really try to think about what the hell makes this game great. So that's my whole problem with the whole fun thing. I just really think it's just lazy, and it's counterintuitive to intellectual criticism.
Yeah, you're totally right. I mean, there's not really anything else to say about that. But I did want to mention that I don't think anybody really knows, but it's kind of like this unspoken or unwritten rule at our site that we never use the word fun in any review. I mean, I bet people haven't even really noticed, but it's like if anything comes through that says it's fun, it's stricken. It's out. You got to rewrite it because, like she said, you cannot quantify what fun is. I mean, my idea of fun is totally different from Chi's idea of fun, which is different from Tim's, which is different from Mike's, which is absolutely going to be different from Joe Blow, who clicks to our site for Metacritic. I mean, you can't just say something's fun. I mean, it's totally pointless. It's nebulous. It's like it doesn't mean anything. And if we are ever going to elevate, games criticism to a level where people can actually start giving it a little bit of respect, I mean, you're going to have to start explaining what it is you mean. I mean, maybe we need to further our lexicon. Maybe we don't have enough words, or maybe we can adapt some words from some other usage somewhere else. But fun is just, I mean, it's ridiculous. I mean, I can hear people describing, spending 3 hours on a multiplayer shooter and getting all these headshots and saying that's the most fun thing. And to me, that sounds like fucking torture. I would rather I'd rather
Borderlands call.
I mean, there's so many other things that would be more fun to me than that just saying fun just doesn't even begin to serve any kind of purpose.
Yeah, I'm with you guys on that. Fun is such a vague term, and not to get into semantics or anything, but I mean, I just look at my own, even film writing. There are a ton of movies that I know are shit, but I like and they're fun, but that doesn't make them good movies. So
Right.
just because a game is fun doesn't automatically make it, worthy of praise. I think we're all looking for, a lot of different aesthetic things in our games. So fun is one component. If you can figure out a way to define it that applies, that not only to yourself but to your audience as well. But I mean, that alone is not enough to make a game good. It's a component of it. Certainly everybody wants to have fun when they play a game. I don't know anybody who says, oh man, I want to play this game, but I sure hope it sucks, or I sure hope it's drudgery or like work. But at the same time, just because it's that, it doesn't automatically make it worthy of praise.
People play games for so many different reasons. You play to satisfy, their OCD tendencies, like half the World of Warcraft players. Some people play to obtain a measure of control that they can't obtain in their own life. I keep thinking back, for a year and a half, I did almost every day the same quest in World of Warcraft to get this stupid chocolate cake recipe. And it was not fun, I assure you. But it was when I would finish the quest, and it was like 2 minutes out of my life every day. I would finish the quest, I would get the reward, and that 2-second period between the time I got the reward and the time I opened it up to see if the recipe was in there, there was this little charge that went off in the back of my head, like, will this be it? Will this be it? And then it wouldn't happen. Soul-crushing disappointment, drink myself into a drunken stupor. And then repeat the next day. But when it finally happened, when that recipe dropped, I cheered and I yelped and I was overjoyed, and in that moment it was all worth it. But no, that wasn't fun. It was kind of sick, actually, and embarrassing to talk about on a podcast.
If it makes you feel any better, I spent 3 months of playing the same stage of GoldenEye, over and over again so I could get the invincibility code to beat the game in 2 minutes and 5 seconds. And I did this not religiously, like it was a job for like 3 months so I could get that invincibility code. And like you said, it was all worth it once I got it.
Yeah.
You guys are some sick dudes, man. I don't know. You guys got problems, man.
If we're revealing our secret shames, I will tell you that I spent like 5 months to catch 10,000 moat carp in Final Fantasy XI so I could get a Liu Shang's fishing rod. So yeah, and that wasn't.
And that fishing rod was
that fishing rod was awesome, dude. That fishing rod caught everything and made me a ton of money. So it was totally cool that way. But I wasn't like Tim, where it was only like 2 minutes a day. I had to fish like all day for months on end, which was the epitome of like really not fun. So, but it was totally worth it.
Well, you know, I don't have like an OCD story like you guys, but I kind of wanted to bring up the issue of enjoyment versus quality. There's been a number of games that I've played where I didn't think what I was doing was fun, but like on an intellectual level, like I respected what the developer was doing, or I liked the idea of it, or I liked what they were going for. I mean, like for example, Disaster Report, if anybody remembers that game from the PS2. Yeah. I mean, that game had some serious production issues. I mean, it was hurt in a lot of ways, but the people that made that game had so many good ideas, and it was such a fresh game that even though like there was a lot of parts that I really just did not enjoy in any way, shape, or form, like I was really compelled to see where that game went and to see what else they would do, and it was really stimulating from a design perspective and from just an originality perspective. So I did want to make the distinction that there are games out there that, you know, I don't want to say fun, but I mean, since that's what we're talking about, like they're not fun, but they are, you know, respectable, or they try something, or they're pushing a boundary that maybe it works, maybe it doesn't. It may not be the best 2 hours you spent in your life, but you may be a little richer for having tried it.
Right. The related myth to what you're saying there, Brad, and what Mike was saying earlier, is that what we personally like and love is not necessarily what is quote unquote good art. It's almost two different things, you know. And I know that's a mouthful and something that's very difficult to explain. But Brad, you kind of just did it right there. You know, as a critic, we have to appreciate things that aren't necessarily things that we enjoy or what we consider to be quote unquote fun, but we understand that, you know, it's groundbreaking, it's revolutionary, it's original, you know. And for me, that's kind of like Grand Theft Auto 3. I didn't enjoy 1 second of that, but it's undeniable the mark that's left on the video game industry as far as what it did for, you know, the culture of games and the perception of games and what it did for storytelling in games, you know.
Oh, absolutely. And I mean, number one, I mean, I guess you don't have a soul, Chi. And number two, you know, it's really, I'm really glad that we were talking about this now, because that's one thing that I think a lot of readers get really hung up on, is that they can't really make the distinction in their heads between the fun that they have playing a game and what quality design is and what originality is worth. I mean, like, you know, any of these games that come out recently that have like a, you know, like I keep tagging the multiplayer shooter modes, where to me, it's very rare that a mode like that comes out that's worth my time, because it's just like a repetitive action. They all kind of build off of what the last one did. They're not really groundbreaking in a lot of ways. I mean, there's some that are, but in general, whenever a game sticks a multiplayer mode on that you just shoot your friend in the face, like I don't fucking care. It doesn't really do a lot for me, and it doesn't do a lot for games in general either. But a lot of people enjoy those, and they enjoy the hell out of them, and I don't begrudge them that joy. I mean, it's there. But as a reviewer, I can't sit there and say, well, this game is really fun because I like to shoot my friend in the face over and over and over. That's a good time to me. Therefore, this game gets a 9 because I had a great time last Friday. Like, we have to look at what the game does. Does it move the genre forward? Does it bring anything new to the table? Does it improve upon a known formula? I mean, you can't just bring polish and quote-unquote fun for some people, because that's not something that you can review. So we look at different criteria, and like so many readers, just they can't even conceive of what that means. And I don't mean to be insulting to our readers and our listeners. I'm not trying to like look down on you guys, but I've had this discussion with readers so many times, and they just don't get it. Like, you try to explain it like a million different ways, and they just don't get it because they had a great time playing multiplayer on game XYZ, and I thought the production level was really low, and it was boring, and it was a Me Too clone of like 5 other things I've already played. They can't see that other perspective. They can't get outside of their own personal enjoyment, which I think causes a lot of strife at our side anyway. I mean, I'm sure it does in other places too. But I mean, do you guys find that to be true also?
Yeah, totally true.
Yeah, I'm hoping that this podcast will basically put the argument to rest, or at least you can always just point to it every time that it comes up again. Because I see you having that argument over and over again, and it's getting pointless. Man.
Yeah. Seriously, it's like I mean, I should just like write a document, and then whenever somebody slams me on the boards, I'll just like cut and paste and just be like, here's my answer. You had a great time. You really loved it. That's great for you. This game sucks anyway. Here's why. And just like I can have that conversation like at least 3 times a week, and it never dries up as far as I'm concerned. I mean, I wish it would, but it doesn't. So, if nothing else,
point him to this podcast.
I'm going to, man. I'm going to. And I was just about to say, if nothing else, I hope that people listening to this will at least start to understand that critics, we can't just look at how fun something is with your buddies. You get some pizza, you get a beer. Any fucking game is fun. I mean, you can, you can have fun playing checkers. I mean, it doesn't mean that checkers is a bad game, but the frame rate on checkers
or the critically acclaimed game Making a Sandwich that you mentioned last time.
Yeah, I know. Seriously, I mean, making a sandwich is fun if you have the right group of people, you have enough alcohol. It's fun, but it doesn't mean that I'm going to give making a ham sandwich a 10. Even though it may be the best thing on earth, but it's not. So, anyway.
And now that we are transcribing the podcast, you can just copy and paste everything you just said into an email, hit send, you're done.
There we go.
Wow, that's going to be a long email.
Yeah. And thanks to Tara Kirk actually for transcribing those. I can't believe that she actually does this because I've transcribed a number of things myself. And it's like the most painful, tedious, time-intensive process like in the world. Like I can hardly think of anything that's worse than transcribing.
She actually transcribes our whole shows.
She does, and she puts it up. So her dedication to people who need a transcription is awesome, and I give her like total props because you could not pay me enough money to transcribe this podcast.
I wonder if she just has fuck macroed by this point.
Control F.
Yeah, well, we heart terror, absolutely.
Yeah, no question. And we should probably let's give her a break and end this show before we go too much longer. Before we end, I want to offer some warm, mushy thanks to everyone who left comments and ideas for this episode. Everybody just came out and left us with so much good stuff, and I feel really bad that we couldn't include everything, but just wanted to do a quick roll call for the following people: Sid Schumann, Dalton Kolkmeyer, Joe TBD, our own Richard Nyack, Mac, Sammy, Sinan, Sparky, Jamie Love, Davey Pitch, Crash Translation, Parker, Jeffrey, Jen, Saul Invictus, and Side Mission Chris. Thanks again to all those fine people, and thanks to you, the audience, for listening. Remember to subscribe to the podcast at the iTunes Music Store or the Zune Marketplace, and if you really like the show, leave us a review. Tell the world of your love for us. You can also listen right off the GameCritics.com front page. Leave comments there as well. Our Twitter handle is @GameCritics. And folks, you should know, every time Twitter goes down, it's due to people sending messages to @GameCritics. Darn it. We'll cut that out. Sorry. Crap.
You were so close, dude. You almost nailed that. You were just like a hair off.
I know.
You should try it again. Do it again real quick. Just do it
no.
Again.
All right, let's try it one more time.
Let's do it one more time.
Our Twitter handle is @GameCritics. And folks, you should know, every time Twitter goes down, it's due to people sending messages to @GameCritics.
Better.
Not quite there, though.
It was good, though. It was better.
It was better. Maybe a funny accent next time.
No, add a laugh track, then you're good to go.
That's
that would be pretty.
That's what this show needs. It needs a laugh track.
Now that we're doing sound effects, I found a good way to do it. So we'll put some heavy laughter in there, and then people will know that it's funny.
Yeah.
So anyway, my thanks to you fine gentlemen, Mike, Brad, Chi. As always, it's been a pleasure. We're 1/4 of the way to 100 episodes, and I hope we can go all the way with it.
Let's
will.
hope.
No problem.
Well, let's play the music. Until next time, folks, I'm Tim Spaeth. Good night, and bonne chance. Enjoy some obscure video game music while we rest up. 2 and 2. Be right back at you.
2 and 2.
What does that mean anyway?
That's
I don't-
Chuck
Wolverine's
Woolery
gonna
from
sue in your ass,
dating
dude.
game. Yeah.
Love
Yeah,
connection.
what does that mean though? 2 and 2,
It was
two
like
commercials?
2 minutes 2 seconds was the commercial break on the what was it? The dating game.
Love connection.
Love connection. Yeah.
That was his catchphrase, man.
Yep.
And he would do like the
And
little.
he'd do the little 2 and he'd flip his
thing.
fingers around. Yeah. 2 and 2. Look
And
it up on YouTube, Chi.
I'm actually
you'll-
doing the finger flip when I say
Yeah.
it as well.
Oh, you have
guys
to.
can't
It's
see it.
required.
It was definitely ringing in my head, like where the fuck did that come from? You know, like that's what I'm saying, but I definitely remember it. I mean, yeah.